Poor mechanic gives billionaire's disabled daughter a miracle. Mom breaks down in tears the night the engine coughed back to life. Nobody noticed the old man wiping grease onto his trousers or the small girl watching from a wheelchair with eyes wide enough to hold a sunrise. What they noticed, what would later be replayed, shared, and whispered about, was the sound. A smooth, steady hum rising from a broken machine that everyone else had given up on. That sound was the first promise that something impossible was about to happen, and once you hear it, you'll want to stay until the very last echo fades. Rashid had learned long ago that miracles didn't knock on doors, they hid inside small, stubborn acts. He was a poor mechanic with a shop made of tin sheets and hope, tucked behind a row of closed factories. His hands were always marked, oil beneath the nails, scars across the knuckles, but they were gentle hands. He fixed what others threw away because broken things felt familiar to him. When the black convoy stopped outside his shop that afternoon, he thought it was a mistake. Billionaires didn't come to men like him. They sent assistance. They sent money. They didn't step out themselves with tired eyes and a fear they couldn't hide. Mr. Halim, the billionaire, carried that fear like a second shadow. His daughter, Ira, sat beside him in a sleek wheelchair, her legs thin and still, her posture careful, as if balance itself was a negotiation. Years of specialists, therapies, and promises had led them here, not because Rashid was famous, but because they had run out of places to go. The car had broken down miles away, and Rashid had fixed it without asking questions, humming softly as he worked. Ira had laughed at the sound of the engine returning, and in that laugh, Halim heard something he hadn't heard in years: hope without a price tag. They came back the next day. And the next. Not for the car, but for the man who spoke to Ira like she was strong, not fragile. Rashid never stared at her legs. He asked about her drawings, her favorite colors, the stories she liked. When he learned she loved machines because they listened if you understood them, he smiled and said people weren't so different. He showed her how gears worked, how balance could be taught to metal with patience. Watching him, Ira leaned forward, gripping the arms of her chair, as if the world were pulling her toward it. Halim's wife, Sarah, watched from a distance at first. She had learned to protect her heart by expecting nothing. Doctors had promised breakthroughs before. Each time, her hope had risen just enough to hurt when it fell. But Rashid never promised anything. He told Sarah that some problems weren't defeated by force, but by learning their language. He spoke of nerves and muscles the way he spoke of engines, quietly, respectfully, as systems that could be coaxed rather than commanded. Weeks passed. Rashid built a simple device from scrap. Nothing polished, nothing expensive. He worked at night, adjusting angles, smoothing edges, testing balance again and again. He asked Ira to try small movements, tiny shifts. Some days she cried from frustration. Some days she laughed at herself. Rashid never rushed her. "We are not racing," he said. "We are listening." The first time Ira stood, it was only for a second. The room went silent. Her knees trembled, her hands shook, and Rashid's hand hovered inches away, not touching. When she sat back down, breathless and shocked, Sarah covered her mouth. Tears came before she could stop them, not loud, not dramatic, but deep, broken sobs that carried years of waiting. Halim dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead to the floor, as if gratitude had weight. But the story didn't end there, because standing for a second is not a miracle you can keep unless you fight for it every day. The second chapter began the morning the internet found them. Someone filmed Ira practicing, filmed Rashid adjusting bolts with care, filmed Sarah crying quietly in the corner. The video spread, and with it came noise, offers, critics, accusations. Some said Rashid was a fraud. Others wanted to buy his device. Money circled like a storm. Rashid refused every offer. He asked only for time. Time to finish what they had started. Pressure mounted. Lawyers called. Clinics demanded explanations. Halim's world tried to reclaim control, but Ira chose the workshop. She chose scraped knees and sore muscles over soft promises. The work was harder now. Progress slowed. Doubt crept in, especially on days when her legs refused to respond. Rashid sat with her then, saying nothing, letting silence do its work. The day Ira walked across the workshop, 3 steps, then 5, then 10, there were no cameras. Just dust in the sunlight and a man holding his breath. Sarah collapsed into a chair, tears streaming freely now, unashamed, uncontained. She laughed through them, repeating her daughter's name like a prayer answered late but perfectly. Halim stood frozen, realizing that all his wealth had never bought this moment, and that was exactly why it mattered. In the end, Rashid gave the device away. He taught others how to build it. He returned to his broken engines and quiet shop, richer in ways that never show up on balance sheets. Ira went on to walk farther, steadier, not cured of everything, but changed enough to change her life. And the lesson lingered, soft but unshakable. Miracles aren't always lightning strikes. Sometimes they are patient hands, listening hearts, and the courage to believe that even the most broken systems can learn to move again, one careful step at a time.